The grand ballroom of the Celestial Heights Hotel glittered like a constellation brought to Earth. Crystal chandeliers cast prismatic light across marble floors, while servers in crisp white uniforms navigated between clusters of the galaxy's elite. It was the annual Interstellar Commerce Summit, where corporate titans, government officials, and influential beings from across known space gathered to network, negotiate, and display their wealth and power. Jonathan Pierce stood near the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking New Manhattan's glittering skyline, a glass of vintage Centaurian wine in his hand that he hadn't actually tasted. At 38, he was the youngest CEO in his company's 150-year history, having transformed Pierce Industries from a struggling manufacturing concern into a galactic powerhouse of advanced technology. His success had come at a cost: a failed marriage, estranged relationships with his family, and a reputation as a ruthless businessman who valued profit over people. Tonight was supposed to be his coronation. Pierce Industries was announcing a massive contract with the Jatharan Empire, a deal that would make him one of the wealthiest humans in the galaxy. Investors were already celebrating. His board of directors was ecstatic, and the media was preparing glowing profiles about his meteoric rise. But Jonathan felt hollow. He'd climbed to the top of the mountain only to realize he was standing there alone. "Mr. Pierce," his vice president of operations, a sleek Delvarian named Kesva, glided over with her characteristic efficiency. "The Jatharan delegation has arrived. Ambassador Torval wants to finalize the contract details before the official announcement." "Of course," Jonathan said, setting down his untouched wine. "Let's not keep them waiting." As he turned to follow Kesva toward the private conference rooms on the mezzanine level, a commotion near the buffet table caught his attention. Security guards were converging on someone, a young woman by the looks of it, though the crowd blocked his view. "Sir, we really should," Kesva began, but Jonathan was already moving toward the disturbance. Years of carefully cultivated instincts told him when something was about to become a public relations nightmare, and a security incident at his company's flagship event definitely qualified. "What's the problem here?" Jonathan's voice cut through the murmuring crowd with the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. The security guards stepped aside, revealing their target. Jonathan found himself staring at a girl who looked about 17 or 18, with the most striking appearance he'd ever seen. Her skin was a soft orange hue that seemed to glow faintly in the chandelier light, and her hair was long and blonde, almost white blonde, falling in messy waves past her shoulders. Her eyes were large and expressive, a deep violet that marked her as non-human, though her features were otherwise humanoid. She wore a thoroughly inappropriate outfit for such a formal event. A oversized gray hoodie that had definitely seen better days, faded cargo pants with multiple pockets, and worn sneakers that squeaked on the marble floor. In her hands, she clutched a plate piled high with food from the buffet: lobster tails, prime rib, exotic fruits, pastries, and what appeared to be at least 6 different desserts precariously balanced on top. "This individual doesn't have proper credentials, sir," the head of security, a burly human named Morrison, said stiffly. "She was caught attempting to access the buffet without authorization." The girl looked up at Jonathan with those enormous violet eyes, utterly unintimidated by the ring of security guards or the CEO staring at her. "I'm just here for the free food," she said matter-of-factly, her voice carrying a slight accent that suggested standard wasn't her first language. "Your security guy is being super dramatic about it." Several nearby guests gasped at her casual tone. You didn't speak to Jonathan Pierce that way, not if you valued your career or social standing. But Jonathan found himself suppressing a smile. There was something refreshingly honest about her complete lack of pretense. "And you are?" "Hungry," the girl replied, adjusting her grip on the overloaded plate. "Also, my name is Arya Shankara, and technically I do have credentials." She awkwardly managed to pull a badge from one of her many pockets without dropping her plate. "See, valid pass." Morrison took the badge, scanned it, and his expression shifted from stern to confused. "Sir, this is a VIP delegate pass, registered to the Kailthari diplomatic mission." "The Kailthari don't have representatives at this summit," Kesva said, consulting her tablet. "They're still in the process of joining the Galactic Commerce Alliance. They have observer status only, and we weren't notified of any observers attending." Arya shrugged, somehow managing to make the gesture look elegant despite her ridiculous outfit and overloaded plate. "Yeah, well, my aunt is the Kelthari trade minister. She was supposed to come, but she got sick last minute. Food poisoning from some Earth sushi, ironically. She gave me her pass and told me to observe and report back. But honestly, I'm really just here for the free food." "Do you know how expensive food is in New Manhattan? I'm a student. I live on ramen and regret." Someone in the crowd laughed, quickly stifled when Jonathan glanced in that direction. "You came to the most important business summit of the year. For the buffet?" Jonathan asked, genuinely incredulous. "Have you seen your buffet?" Arya gestured at her plate. "This is like 3 weeks' worth of grocery money, maybe 4. And that's if I'm eating nothing but instant noodles, which I have been because student loans are crushing my soul." She popped a chocolate-covered strawberry in her mouth. "Oh my God, that's amazing. Is that real chocolate? We can't afford real chocolate on Kailshara." Kesva looked scandalized. Morrison looked confused. The gathered crowd was torn between amusement and shock. And Jonathan surprised himself by laughing. Actually laughing, not the polite chuckle he deployed at investor meetings, but a genuine burst of mirth. "You're serious," he said. "You're actually just here for the food." "Absolutely. 100%. I mean, I'll write some report for my aunt about interstellar commerce trends or whatever, but mainly..." Arya snagged another item from her plate, some kind of exotic fruit glazed in gold leaf. "I'm here to eat food I could never otherwise afford and maybe sneak some of those mini quiches into my pockets for later." "This is highly irregular," Kesva protested. "Mr. Pierce, we have the Jatharan delegation waiting." "Let them wait 5 more minutes," Jonathan said, unable to take his eyes off this strange, honest girl who'd crashed his event for free food. "Miss Shankara, you said you're a student. What are you studying?" "Xenobiology and comparative medicine at New Manhattan University," Arya said, balancing her plate on one hand while using the other to pull out a napkin and wrap up several pastries. "Specifically, I'm researching cross-species genetic compatibility and hybrid health outcomes. It's fascinating stuff, but the grants are terrible and the lab fees are insane, hence the ramen diet and the shameless party crashing." Something clicked in Jonathan's memory. "Shankara," he said slowly. There's a Dr. Tomas Shankara who published groundbreaking research on Kelthari human genetic markers. Any relation? Arya's expression shifted, becoming more guarded. He was my father. He died 4 years ago, raider attack on a frontier colony. The ballroom suddenly felt quieter. Jonathan recognized the look in her eyes, the carefully controlled pain of someone who'd learned to live with loss but never quite stopped hurting. "I'm sorry," he said, and meant it. "Yeah, well." Arya's casual demeanor returned, but Jonathan could see it was armor now. Life happens, death happens, you keep moving forward. Speaking of which, I should probably actually move forward toward the exit before your security guy decides I'm a threat to national security or something. Wait, Jonathan said, the words surprising him as much as everyone else. You're studying cross-species medicine. Xenobiology and comparative medicine, technically, but yeah. Why? Jonathan's mind was racing. For months, Pierce Industries had been struggling with a problem in their medical technology division. They developed an advanced diagnostic scanner that worked perfectly for humans, but gave inconsistent readings for alien species. The issue was costing them contracts and damaging their reputation in the medical field. They'd consulted with dozens of experts, spent millions on research, and made minimal progress. "How much do you know about diagnostic scanner calibration across different biological systems?" he asked. Arya blinked, clearly not expecting the question. Quite a bit actually. It's kind of my thing. I wrote a paper last semester on resonance frequency variations in Kelthari versus human cellular structures. Got published in the Journal of Interspecies Medical Research, which was cool. Why? "Mr. Pierce," Kesva said urgently, "the Jatharan delegation can wait 10 more minutes," Jonathan said firmly. He pulled out his personal tablet and pulled up a file. "Miss Shankara, take a look at this." Arya set her plate down on a nearby table. Several guests backed away from it as if the cheap hoodie might be contagious, and took the tablet. Her violet eyes scanned the technical specifications, and Jonathan watched her expression shift from casual interest to focused intensity. "Oh, wow," she murmured. "This is your MedScan Pro series, right? The one that's been having cross-species compatibility issues." She zoomed in on a section of the readout. "Your problem is here. You're using a fixed resonance baseline calibrated for human cellular density. But different species have wildly different cellular compositions. Kelthari cells are about 40% denser than human cells because we evolved on a high-gravity world. Your scanner is essentially trying to read us through the wrong lens." "We know that," Jonathan said. "We've been trying to develop species-specific calibration modules, but that's the wrong approach," Arya interrupted, completely absorbed now. "You'd need hundreds of modules for every known species, and you'd still get hybrid individuals who don't fit any single profile. What you need is adaptive resonance, a scanner that can analyze and adjust its baseline in real time based on the biological signature it encounters." She looked up from the tablet, her eyes bright with excitement. "I actually prototyped something like this last year for my thesis project. Nothing as sophisticated as your tech, obviously. I was working with equipment the university was literally going to throw away. But the principle is sound. You'd need to incorporate a multi-phase scanning array that samples at different frequencies simultaneously, then uses algorithmic analysis to construct a dynamic baseline for each individual subject." Jonathan stared at her. You built a prototype? Well, yeah, it's in my lab, or what passes for my lab, basically a converted storage closet with some second-hand equipment and a lot of duct tape. She handed back the tablet. It works, but scaling it up to commercial production would require resources I definitely don't have. Hence the ramen and the party crashing. Sir, the Jatharan delegation is becoming impatient, Kesva said, her tone suggesting this was her final warning. Jonathan made a decision. Tell them there's been a complication. We need to postpone the announcement by 1 hour. Kesva's eyes widened. Sir, we cannot postpone. 1 hour, Kesva, that's an order. He turned back to Arya. Miss Shankara, how would you like a job? Arya laughed. I'm sorry, what? A job with Pierce Industries. Our medical technology division has been struggling with exactly the problem you just diagnosed in under 2 minutes. If your prototype actually works. It works, Arya said firmly. Then I want to see it, and if it's as good as you say, I want to hire you to help us implement it. Jonathan pulled out his personal card, actual physical paper, an affectation that signaled serious business. My private number. Call me tomorrow. We'll set up a lab visit. Arya took the card like it might bite her. You're offering me a job because I crashed your party for free food? I'm offering you a job because you solved a multi-million-dollar problem in under 2 minutes while holding a plate of lobster. The free food thing just makes you memorable. Jonathan smiled, a real smile, not his corporate mask. What do you say? I say this is the weirdest night of my life, and I once accidentally ended up at an underground fighting ring thinking it was a poetry slam. Arya pocketed the card. But yeah, okay, I'll call you tomorrow. Now if you'll excuse me, I have about 47 mini quiches to smuggle into my backpack before security escorts me out. Morrison, Jonathan said to his head of security, please make sure Miss Shankara gets home safely and let her take whatever food she wants. Sir, Morrison looked pained. Whatever food she wants. Jonathan enunciated each word clearly. Consider it an advance on her consulting fee. Arya's face lit up like someone had handed her the keys to the universe. I take back every mean thing I was thinking about corporate overlords. You're officially my favorite billionaire. I'm not a billionaire. Multi-millionaire? Yes, close enough. Okay, I'm going to need like 6 of those lobster tails, and is that a whole roasted duck over there? Can I take the duck? I feel like I should take the duck. As Morrison escorted Arya toward the buffet, where she proceeded to methodically pillage the most expensive items with the efficiency of someone who'd clearly thought about this moment, Jonathan felt Kesva's disapproving presence beside him. Sir, with all due respect, this is highly irregular. We know nothing about this girl beyond her name and her apparent ability to consume her body weight in seafood. We're about to announce a billion-dollar contract with the Jatharan Empire, and you're offering jobs to party crashers. She's not a party crasher. She has valid credentials. Observer credentials for a government that isn't even part of the alliance yet. She also has a published paper in a peer-reviewed journal and a working prototype that could solve our biggest medical division problem. Jonathan watched Arya negotiate with Morrison about whether she could take an entire tray of desserts. And she's genuine, Kesva. When was the last time anyone in this room said something that wasn't calculated for maximum advantage? Kesva sighed. I'll have HR run a full background check. Do that, but also set up a lab visit for this week. I want to see this prototype. Jonathan checked his watch. Now, let's go deal with the Jatharans before they decide to take their business elsewhere. The meeting with Ambassador Torval and his delegation went smoothly, or as smoothly as negotiations with Jatharans ever went. They were a proud species, prone to elaborate displays of honor and status, and the contract signing involved ceremonial elements that took another hour to complete properly. By the time Jonathan returned to the ballroom for the official announcement, Arya was long gone, leaving only a legend among the catering staff about the alien girl who'd convinced security to let her take home enough food to feed a small army. Jonathan gave his speech about the partnership with the Jatharan Empire, accepted congratulations from investors and dignitaries, and smiled for the cameras. But his mind was elsewhere, thinking about violet eyes and honest answers and someone who'd crashed the most important event of his career because she was hungry and poor and didn't see any reason to pretend otherwise. The next morning, his personal line rang at 9:47 a.m. "Mr. Pierce, this is Arya Shankara from the party where I stole all your food." Jonathan smiled at the directness. "I remember, and it wasn't stealing if I gave permission." Morally ambiguous acquisition, then. "Anyway, I'm calling because I figure you were either serious about the job thing or you were just being polite to get rid of the weird alien girl with the lobster obsession. So which is it?" "I was serious. Are you free this afternoon?" "I'm a broke grad student. I'm free literally any time you want me to be free." 2 p.m. I'll send a car to pick you up from the university. Bring your prototype. The whole thing, it's kind of janky. And by kind of janky, I mean it's held together with duct tape and prayers. Bring it anyway. There was a pause. "You're really serious about this?" "Miss Shankara, I don't joke about business. See you at 2. At 1:58 p.m., Jonathan's assistant informed him that a young woman carrying what appeared to be a large metal box covered in duct tape had arrived. Jonathan met her in the lobby personally, which caused a minor stir among the Pierce Industries employees who weren't used to seeing their CEO escort visitors anywhere. Arya looked marginally more professional than the night before. She'd traded the hoodie for a button-down shirt that was only slightly wrinkled. But she was still wearing cargo pants and those same worn sneakers. The box she carried was indeed covered in duct tape, with wires sprouting from various points and what looked like hand-labeled components held in place with zip ties. "I told you it was janky," Arya said by way of greeting. "I've seen worse prototypes," Jonathan lied. "You're a terrible liar, but I appreciate the effort." Arya adjusted her grip on the box. "So, where's this fancy lab you want me to dazzle with my duct tape engineering?" Jonathan led her to the Medical Technology Division's main research lab, a gleaming space filled with cutting-edge equipment and staffed by some of the best engineers in the field. The head of the division, Dr. Sarah Okonkwo, met them at the entrance, her expression skeptical. "Jonathan, I got your message about a consultant," but she stopped, staring at Arya and her duct-taped box. "This is your solution to our resonance problem?" "Dr. Okonkwo, meet Arya Shankara." "Arya, this is Dr. Okonkwo, head of our Medical Technology Division." "The Dr. Okonkwo who pioneered adaptive neural interfaces." Arya's eyes widened. "Oh my God, I read all your papers. Your work on cross-species neural mapping is literally the reason I got into xenobiology." Dr. Okonkwo's skepticism softened slightly. "You're familiar with my research." "Familiar. I wrote a 20-page response essay to your Journal of Neural Science article last year. My professor said it was the most enthusiastic academic writing he'd ever read. I may have used the word revolutionary like 40 times. I'd like to read that essay, Dr. Okonkwo said, warming further. But for now, Jonathan tells me you have a prototype scanner with adaptive resonance capabilities. Oh, right. Arya set down her box and started carefully removing the duct tape. Okay, so this is definitely not pretty, and it's built from parts the university was literally throwing away. But the core principle is sound. What emerged from the duct tape cocoon was indeed janky, a cobbled-together mess of salvaged components, hand-soldered circuits, and at least 3 different types of scanning arrays cannibalized from various sources. But as Arya explained her design, walking them through the multi-phase scanning process and the algorithmic baseline construction, both Jonathan and Dr. Okonkwo found themselves leaning in, genuinely impressed. The beauty of it, Arya said, her hands moving expressively as she spoke, is that it doesn't require you to pre-program every species. The scanner learns by analyzing the biological signature in real time. It's like, okay, bad analogy time. It's like if you gave someone a universal translator, but instead of having every language preloaded, it learned new languages by listening to them. The first scan might take a few seconds longer, but subsequent scans are instant because it's built a profile. Show me, Dr. Okonkwo said. Arya powered up her prototype, which made concerning humming noises and produced a smell like burning electronics, and ran a test scan on her own arm. The readout appeared on a jury-rigged display screen, showing detailed cellular analysis with resonance frequencies clearly marked. Then she scanned Dr. Okonkwo, who was human. The scanner took about 5 seconds to adjust, then produced equally detailed results with completely different baseline frequencies. Holy shit, one of the junior engineers breathed. It actually works. Told you, Arya said smugly. Then her scanner sparked, smoked, and died with a sad electronic wheeze. Oh, come on. I just fixed that yesterday. Dr. Okonkwo was already pulling up schematics on her tablet. The principle is sound, but your power regulation is unstable. And these circuits can't handle the processing load. They're literally overheating and failing. Yeah, I know, that's like the 5th prototype to die on me. Turns out scavenged parts have scavenged lifespans. Arya poked sadly at her dead scanner. I kept trying to get the university to fund a proper build with quality components, but they said my research was too speculative and unlikely to produce commercially viable results, which is academic speak for we don't think you can actually pull this off. How long would it take you to build a stable version with proper components? Jonathan asked. Arya looked up at him, then at the lab full of cutting-edge equipment around them. With access to this kind of tech, maybe 3 weeks. A month tops. Dr. Okonkwo, your assessment. The head of medical technology studied Arya for a long moment. If this works at scale, and I believe it will, this could revolutionize medical scanning across the galaxy. We could finally offer a truly universal diagnostic tool. Then I think we should make it happen. Jonathan turned to Arya. Here's my offer, a 6-month contract as a research consultant with the option to extend or convert to full employment based on results. You'll work directly with Dr. Okonkwo's team to develop a commercial version of your scanner. Salary is negotiable, but I'm thinking 6 figures with a performance bonus if we bring a product to market. Arya sat down abruptly on a lab stool. 6 figures, as in, a one followed by 5 other numbers. At minimum. That's, Arya did some mental math. That's like 400 years worth of ramen, maybe 500. I haven't done the exact calculation. Dr. Okonkwo laughed. I think what she's trying to say is yes. I mean yes, obviously yes, are you kidding? Arya looked between them, her expression cycling through disbelief, joy, and suspicion. Wait, what's the catch? There's always a catch. Do I have to sign away my soul, pledge loyalty to the corporate overlords, wear a suit? The catch, Jonathan said, amused, is that you'll be expected to actually deliver results. And yes, you'll probably need to dress somewhat more professionally than cargo pants and sneakers. I can do business casual. I have like 2 pairs of slacks. They're both from a thrift store and one has a suspicious stain, but I can work with that. We'll provide a professional wardrobe budget, Dr. Okonkwo said, clearly taking pity on her, along with proper lab access, equipment budget, and whatever resources you need. Arya looked around the gleaming lab, at the equipment that represented more money than she'd see in a lifetime, at the team of brilliant engineers waiting to see what she'd do next. Her eyes were shining. With tears, Jonathan realized. My dad would have loved this, she said softly. He spent his whole career trying to bridge the gap between species, trying to make medicine accessible to everyone regardless of their biology. He worked in tiny labs with broken equipment and barely any funding, but he never gave up. And now I'm standing here in the most advanced medical lab I've ever seen, being offered the chance to finish what he started. She wiped her eyes, smearing what might have been the beginning of tears. Sorry, that was unprofessional. This is a lot. Take your time, Jonathan said gently. Okay. Arya took a deep breath, squared her shoulders, and looked him directly in the eye. I accept your offer, Mr. Pierce, and I promise you won't regret this. I'm going to build you the best damn medical scanner the galaxy has ever seen, and I'm going to do it while eating significantly better food than ramen, which honestly is going to improve my productivity by at least 40%. Jonathan extended his hand. Welcome to Pierce Industries, Miss Shankara. She shook it firmly, her grip stronger than he expected. Call me Arya. Miss Shankara makes me sound like I know what I'm doing. Over the following weeks, Jonathan found himself spending more time in the medical division than he had in years. Officially, he told himself it was because the scanner project represented a significant investment and strategic pivot for the company. Unofficially, he was fascinated by Arya. She was brilliant. There was no question about that. She could discuss complex xenobiology for hours, could troubleshoot engineering problems that stumped PhDs with decades of experience, could see connections between disparate systems that no one else noticed. But she was also completely, refreshingly authentic in a way that was rare in Jonathan's world. She called out bad ideas in meetings regardless of who proposed them. She ate lunch at her workstation surrounded by technical schematics and takeout containers. She occasionally broke into song while calibrating equipment, usually pop songs from her teenage years, which she claimed helped her think. She once told the head of legal that his contract language was aggressively boring and rewrote an entire section to be less likely to induce comas in anyone unfortunate enough to read it. And slowly, Jonathan found himself looking forward to visits to the lab, found himself making excuses to check on the project's progress, found himself laughing at Arya's terrible jokes and her running commentary on corporate culture. "You know what's weird about being here?" Arya said one day, about 6 weeks into the project. They were alone in the lab late one evening, running tests on the latest prototype. "Everyone's so serious all the time. Like you're all doing important work, I get that. But you're also humans and aliens and hybrid individuals who presumably have lives and interests beyond quarterly earnings reports." "That's how business works," Jonathan said, monitoring the test readout. "Yeah, but why? Like who decided that professionalism means pretending you don't have a personality?" She adjusted a calibration setting. "My dad used to say that the best science happened when people could be themselves, when they could get excited and weird and passionate about their work without worrying about being professional." "Your father sounds like he was a wise man." He was. He was also terrible at business, which is why he spent his career broke and struggling for funding. So maybe there's a balance somewhere. Arya glanced at him. "Can I ask you something personal?" "You can ask, I may not answer." "Why do you do this, the whole CEO thing? You've made more money than you could spend in 10 lifetimes. You could retire, do whatever you want. But you're here at 10 p.m. on a Friday watching me calibrate a medical scanner. Why?" Jonathan was quiet for a long moment, watching the test results scroll across the screen. "Honestly, I don't know anymore. I started Pierce Industries because I wanted to prove to my father that I was more than just his disappointing son, prove to myself that I was capable of something great. But somewhere along the way, the company became everything. I sacrificed my marriage, my relationships, my happiness. All for what? A bigger office, more zeros in my bank account. That's depressing." "That's honest." Arya shut down the test sequence and turned to face him fully. "You know what I think? I think you forgot why you started. You got so focused on winning that you forgot what you were winning for." "And what about you?" Jonathan challenged. "You crashed a party for free food. You built a revolutionary scanner out of garbage. You're brilliant enough to work anywhere, do anything. Why are you here?" "Because I'm finishing what my dad started," Arya said simply. "Because somewhere out there, there are people, humans, aliens, hybrids, who can't get proper medical care because the scanners don't work for their biology. And if I can fix that, even for some of them, then I'm making the galaxy a little bit better than I found it. That matters more than money or status or any of that other stuff." "You make it sound simple." "It is simple. We just make it complicated." She smiled. "Plus, the salary means I can afford food that isn't ramen, which significantly improves my quality of life." Jonathan laughed. "You always come back to food. Food is important. It's literally fuel for existence, and also delicious." She grabbed her jacket from a chair. "Speaking of which, I'm starving. There's a dumpling place around the corner that stays open late. Want to come?" "I shouldn't." "That wasn't a business question, Mr. Pierce. That was a do you want to eat dumplings with me question. You're allowed to just be a person who eats food sometimes." Jonathan found himself nodding. "Okay, yes, dumplings sound good." They ended up at a tiny hole-in-the-wall restaurant that Arya swore had the best dumplings in New Manhattan. She was right. They were incredible. And as they sat in a cramped booth surrounded by students and late-night workers, eating steamed dumplings and arguing about the ethics of artificial intelligence, Jonathan realized he was enjoying himself more than he had in years. No business agenda, no networking, no strategic value. just two people sharing a meal and a conversation. "Thank you," he said suddenly. "For what? I didn't pay, you paid, which was very CEO of you, by the way. For reminding me that there's more to life than the next deal, the next acquisition, the next victory." Arya smiled, her violet eyes warm in the restaurant's dim lighting. "You're welcome. And hey, if you ever need more reminding, I know like 15 other places with amazing cheap food. I crashed your fancy party, but I can also crash normal places. I'm very versatile." 3 months after that first meeting at the summit, Pierce Industries announced the MedScan Universal, the first truly adaptive medical scanner capable of working across all known species without pre-programming. The launch was a massive success, with pre-orders flooding in from hospitals and clinics across the galaxy. At the press conference, Jonathan made sure to give Arya full credit for the breakthrough. She stood next to him, uncomfortable in a borrowed suit, but beaming as reporters asked her questions about the technology. Later, at the celebration dinner, much fancier than dumplings, though Arya whispered that she still preferred the dumpling place, Dr. Okonkwo pulled Jonathan aside. "That girl is special," she said, watching Arya enthusiastically explain scanner mechanics to a group of investors who looked both confused and charmed. "Not just her mind, though that's extraordinary, but her heart. She cares about the work, about helping people. You don't find that often in this industry." "I know," Jonathan said. "Don't lose her to a competitor, and don't lose sight of why you hired her in the first place, because she was honest and brilliant and completely herself." "I won't." 6 months after the girl in the cargo pants crashed his summit for free food, Jonathan Pierce stood in his office overlooking New Manhattan and realized his company had changed. Dr. Okonkwo's division was now encouraging creative thinking and unconventional approaches. Other departments were loosening their rigid corporate cultures. And Jonathan himself was different, still driven, still ambitious, but with a clearer sense of purpose beyond just winning. All because a hungry alien girl had been honest enough to admit she just wanted free lobster. His phone rang. It was Arya. "Hey, boss. So I have this idea for an adaptive scanner that works on non-carbon-based life forms, but it's going to sound crazy." "All your best ideas sound crazy at first," Jonathan said, smiling. "Tell me about it." "Okay, so hear me out." As Arya launched into an enthusiastic explanation involving quantum resonance and theoretical biology, Jonathan realized that the girl who'd crashed his party had given him something far more valuable than a revolutionary medical scanner. She'd given him back his purpose, and maybe in the process they'd both found exactly what they were looking for.